So I think I manifest whatever problem I talk about in my videos. My last video was about burnout. Tell me why the next day I couldn't do anything because I was so tired and exhausted out of nowhere. I'm gonna stop manifesting negative things through my videos and I'm gonna start talking about positive stuff. Today that's gonna be motivation to kind of counteract whatever the hell that was.
Like, everyone's talking about discipline and that you need to be disciplined and that motivation means nothing, and yes.
That makes sense. Like, motivation, it fluctuates. You can't really rely on motivation all the time.
However,
what if you could rely on motivation all the time? That's what I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna teach you how to stay motivated, what works for each individual person. It's hard to get stuff done when you don't wanna do it. So if you make yourself wanna do it, like, you're literally good. I'm gonna be recording myself kind of resetting from that burnout. Hopefully me being productive will encourage you to be productive while I also teach you how to maintain that productivity. Each person has a different way that their motivation works. Like in their brain, like with their nucleus accumbens and dopamine reward system, no, it's not technically different.
however,
If you look into Eastern medicine, there is this thing called doshas. I'm gonna pronounce this so wrong, I'm so sorry. I'm not very knowledgeable in this specific thing because I don't do a whole lot of Eastern medicine stuff. I wanna do more because it's fascinating, but I am like so surface level with this stuff. So if you're interested in this, I would highly recommend to do more research, don't just trust me. There's basically 3 fundamental energies that each person has. There's the wind energy, which is called the vata. I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong. Vata is the wind energy, pitta is the fire energy, and kapha is the earth energy. I'm a vata, and I've always noticed that my motivation, it always fluctuates. I'm never constantly locked in on one thing. It always changes. Like, I'll be interested in psychology, but then I'll get bored of that, so then I'll go more into business.
And then when I get bored of business, then I start doing things like creative arts, like painting and writing.
And it always like fluctuates, and it even like rotates. That's what I've started to do. Like, I started rotating. So it's like a cycle of I do psychology and then business, art, and then I go back to psychology, business, and I just keep doing that over and over. And I always wondered why I can't just stick to one thing. And that's because I'm a vata energy. The wind energy is very dynamic. You're constantly flowing into the next thing. It's easy to kind of get swept away with different tasks. Rotating is kind of the best way to manage all of your interests and keep them going. The way you work, unlike the pitta, who is more focused on long marathons and just getting through one thing and staying focused and stable in that thing, Vittas, we do sprints, we don't do marathons. We sprint to one thing, we take a break, we move on to the next thing, we do another sprint. Vattas are very prone to anxiety. I can say from experience that that makes a lot of sense. Society is designed around pitta energy. It's kind of that steady burning fire, like constantly going energy. Like, you're always motivated toward the same thing. Maybe not the same thing, but similar things, and you kind of just keep working towards that. My dad is definitely a pitta. He has been interested in finance and business and all of that stuff for decades, and he has a successful business. He's been doing well, and that's because society is built around people who are constantly burning in that one direction. Pittas honestly don't really need that much advice with motivation because society is kind of built around your motivation style anyway. As a pitta, you need to maintain stability because the brightest fires burn out the fastest, and as the fire energy, you need to keep your fire going and not let it fizzle away. Pittas are pretty prone to burnout because they tend to go a little bit too deep sometimes. And the last energy is kapha, which is the earth energy, and it's generally slow and steady and very grounded. They tend to start slow, but when they eventually reach their top speed, they go very fast, faster than any of the other energies. If you're a night owl, you might be a kapha. And I know that there's somebody I know who has this energy because he would always tell me that in the morning he would have to wake up super early because he's just so slow and sluggish in the morning and he just can't get ready fast enough. But he's also such a night owl, and at night he's doing most of his work. However, they tend to be very self-critical because they don't realize that starting out slow is okay, and they think that they're falling behind, and right before they start picking up speed, that's when they give up. Don't give up. You just have to keep going, and eventually you're going to get better. Using those 3 different types of energies, you can kind of determine how your motivation is going to work. You just have to make things work for you, even if society tells you, like, no, that shouldn't work for you. Yes, it should. Like, what the fuck? Hello! So I just finished a little study session for psych. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is everything that I have in my notebook about motivation. The way that motivation works is through dopamine. So you can kind of think of motivation as currency. When you do an action that takes energy from you. So like going to the gym, that's going to take energy. But you're going to get something back, a reward, and that in turn is a deposit. And you can kind of think of it as a currency that you use. So if you have enough currency to go to the gym, you're going to get a lot of motivation points, I guess, back, because throughout the week you're going to feel better about yourself, you're going to feel more motivated, and you're going to have more dopamine because of that. Exercise literally releases dopamine. However, if you've been in a slump lately, you're probably not going to have the energy to start going to the gym. It's better to start with smaller things, and to kind of keep your motivation going, you kind of need to keep that currency going. So you can't do things that completely deplete your dopamine without any return back, such as things like scrolling and using all of your dopamine on short form content, or addictions or video games, because that depletes your motivation without putting a deposit back. And without that deposit back, you can't keep investing into things that are going to in turn give you motivation. Let's say that you've been doing a lot of little tasks, like maybe cleaning part of your room or making a healthy meal, and that has given you some motivation currency, and now you have motivation to go to the gym. You go to the gym and then you get even more back, and not just for that day, but throughout the week. You're going to get motivation points back, and you're going to want to do more because you got dopamine back. Dopamine reinforces behaviors in the brain and in the nucleus accumbens. You're going to want to do more productive things because you reinforced in your head that they're good things. Now, everybody has motivation. It sort of just depends what you're putting that motivation into. When you are scrolling, you are highly motivated to scroll. You wouldn't think of motivation that way because we assume that motivation has a positive connotation, but that's not necessarily true. It controls our desires based on dopamine. If we do something that gives us a lot of dopamine, our nucleus accumbens basically says, pause, we should keep that in mind because I like doing that. Because that gave me a lot of dopamine, that must mean that I should do this more. So you're going to start craving whatever thing gave you dopamine. You're going to start wanting it more. For someone, the gym might be reinforced, but for someone else, video games might be reinforced. Whether you are motivated to go to the gym or motivated to play video games, you're still highly motivated either way because of what your nucleus accumbens has been reinforced to keep on giving you cravings for, based on your dopamine and what your dopamine has been going into. Using your motivation currency, you kind of need to guide where your motivation goes. Kind of just do whatever works for you based on your dosha, obviously, and also just what you're comfortable doing, what you know makes you feel good, so you can kind of stack up those motivation points and then put that into something new. The actual last thing is that motivation is just holding a thought in your head. Allegedly. If you've ever been in the flow state, you know that you are super motivated to just stay in that flow state. And what is so special about the flow state? It is one-pointedness of the mind. You are not thinking about other things. You're not being distracted by other things. There's nothing that is bumping whatever is currently being held in your head out of your head. You're just focused on whatever task that you're in. This morning, I wanted to record. I just held that thought in my head and it just stayed there, and now I'm recording. And then when I'm done with this, that thought is going to move and I'm going to put something else in there, probably studying for the SATs. So an example of this, so going back to the gym example, if you're trying to hold the thought of going to the gym in your head and then something bumps it and thinks, what if I'm judged? Now your motivation is going down because you're not holding that one thought in your head, it's getting bumped by something else. So how can you work on holding a singular thought in your head? Increase its importance. If I didn't really care about YouTube, it would be hard for me to hold that thought in my head because if I don't care about it, I'm not going to be constantly thinking, this is what I want to do when I record.
This is what I'm going to say. This is the format that I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to record. Like, I wouldn't be thinking about that stuff if I didn't care.
Increase things' importance. Secondly, practice meditation and practice one-pointedness of the mind. It is kind of a skill that you need to have a grasp of. I think focusing on breath work and a mantra is a good place to start. We're in my kitchen now because the final segment of this motivational video is health. Because if you don't have good health, you don't have good anything. Health is like the most important thing on the planet. There's physical health and there's mental health. And if you want to focus on something like motivation, I actually don't want to plate. If you don't have good health, you're not going to be able to focus for very long. I don't cut my lettuce. I just rip it. Is that bad? Your mental health is also affected by your physical health. For example, if you're not sleeping well, you're going to feel more sluggish and you're probably not going to be as productive that day, which could end up making you feel guilty and just not good. You need to eat healthy, obviously. Eating poorly is going to send you down like a bad spiral of just not feeling good. It's going to keep you feeling sluggish. It's not going to nourish your brain Please don't cut things like how I cut things. I'm a bad influence. Your body isn't going to be feeling good. If you are a picky eater, someone who just doesn't like the conventional healthy way of eating, everything is good in moderation. So eating what you want to eat is the most important. Don't eat things that you don't want to eat or that you don't like just for the sake of being healthy. Next, sleep. Not enough people sleep well, and it's very bad. Sleep is one of the most important things for your health. Make sure you exercise, go outside, especially in the morning. It's going to be something that wakes you up and makes you feel motivated for the day. For your mental health, things like meditating, journaling, all like the basics, that's gonna really help. I have a bunch of videos on a bunch of stuff. So I'm being very vague right now because this isn't really a self-care type of video, it's more of a motivation type of video. I just want to make it clear that motivation is not something that stands by itself. It is influenced by other things like physical and mental health. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. I love you so much. Bye!